So, today I want to talk about the various ways you can write a love poem, as some of the greatest poets have shown us. There will be some rhyming poems here, but don't be intimidated. Your poem does not have to rhyme. Let's start with your first option, Yearning. Demonstrate how much you love your Valentine by writing a poem about how badly you want to be with them. Oftentimes, yearning poems aren't even written to your partner, but someone who you'd like as your partner. For example, Deathless Aphrodite of the Spangled Mind by Sappho, this translation by Anne Carson. Deathless Aphrodite of the spangled mind, child of Zeus who twists lures, I beg you, do not break with hard pains, O lady, my heart, but come here if ever before you caught my voice far off, and listening, left your father's golden house and came, yoking your car, and fine birds brought you, quick sparrows over the black earth, whipping their wings down the sky through mid-air, they arrived. But you, O blessed one, smiled in your deathless face and asked, what, now again, I have suffered, and why, now again, I am calling out. And what I want to happen most of all in my crazy heart. Whom should I persuade, now again, to lead you back into her love? Who, O Sappho, is wronging you? For if she flees, soon she will pursue. If she refuses gifts, rather will she give them. If she does not love, soon she will love, even unwilling. Come to me now, loose me from hard care, and all my heart longs to accomplish. You, be my ally. This poem might seem a little complicated, but don't be intimidated. In this poem, the speaker is calling out to Aphrodite, basically pleading for the goddess's help in getting the apple of her eye. And yes, the speaker of this poem is a woman. It's Sappho, in fact, or at least a version of Sappho in her mind. Aphrodite says so right here. It's really important to our understanding of the poem to know that it's Aphrodite speaking in this chunk and not Sappho. Sappho starts the poem begging for the help of deathless Aphrodite, the goddess of love. Aphrodite appears transported by sparrows and asks Sappho who she loves and what she can do for her. It's quite the expression of yearning, isn't it? To demand that the goddess of love come down and help you win your adored's heart. But that being said, there's actually a bit of dubiousness going on here too, and maybe you already picked up on it. Notice how many times it's implied that this has happened before, that Sappho has called for Aphrodite's help and the goddess has responded. Just how many lovers has Sappho taken? Then there's this line, soon she will love, even unwilling. That's pretty chilling, to put it lightly, although it is in keeping with a lot of Greek myths. A lot of figures in Greek mythology did not care for consent, did they? As much as this might be a poem about yearning, it's also a poem about the speaker and her potential shortcomings in love. The last stanza sort of has a double meaning when Sappho says, loose me from hard care and all my heart longs to accomplish. You, be my ally. On the one hand, Sappho might be begging Aphrodite to release her from her heartbreak by making her crush fall for her. On the other hand, maybe Sappho is begging to be released from love in general, to be loosed from all that her heart longs to accomplish. Granted, this might just be a feature of the translation rather than what Sappho intended. But maybe that's exactly what Anne Carson thought Sappho intended. That's one of the fun things about translation. In this translation from sacredtexts.com, the final stanza reads, come then, I pray, grant me surcease from sorrow, drive away care, I beseech thee, O goddess, fulfill for me what I yearn to accomplish, be thou my ally. And frankly, that could still have the same double meaning, especially in the phrase, drive away care. So just for the sake of this video, let's take a look at a more straightforward example of yearning. This isn't a poem, but it definitely reads like one. This is one of John Keats's love letters to Fanny Brawne. It reads, my dearest girl, this moment I have set myself to copy some verse out fair. I cannot proceed with any degree of content. I must write you a line or two and see if that will assist in dismissing you from my mind for ever so short a time. Upon my soul, I can think of nothing else. This time is past when I had power to advise and warn you against the uncompromising mourning of my life. My love has made me selfish. I cannot exist without you. I am forgetful of everything but seeing you again. My life seems to stop there. I see no further. You have absorbed me. I have a sensation at the present moment as though I was dissolving. I should be exquisitely miserable without the hope of soon seeing you. I should be afraid to separate myself far from you. My sweet Fanny, will your heart never change? My love, will it? I have no limit now to my love. Your note came in just here. I cannot be happier away from you. 'Tis richer than any argosy of pearls. Do not treat me even in jest. I have been astonished that men could die martyrs for religion. I have shuddered at it. I shudder no more. I could be martyred for my religion. Love is my religion. I could die for that. I could die for you. My creed is love, and you are its only tenet. You have ravished me away by a power I cannot resist, and yet I could resist till I saw you, and even since I have seen you, I have endeavored often to reason against the reason of my love. I can do that no more. The pain would be too great. My love is selfish. I cannot breathe without you. Yours forever, John Keats. I mean, come on, if that ain't yearning, I don't know what is. But oftentimes, expressions of yearning can sound a little cliche, which is why Sappho's framing of calling on Aphrodite is so effective, especially in its execution and chosen language. Still, let's move on from yearning and get a little more creative. Option number 2. Write a poem in which you use a metaphor to describe your love. The most famous example is probably A Red, Red Rose by Robert Burns. Oh, my love is like a red, red rose that's newly sprung in June. Oh, my love is like the melody that's sweetly played in tune. So fair art thou, my bonny lass, so deep in love am I. And I will love thee still, my dear, till all the seas gang dry. Till all the seas gang dry, my dear, and the rocks melt with the sun. I will love thee still, my dear, while the sands of life shall run. And fairly weal, my only love, and fairly weal a while, and I will come again, my love, though it were 10,000 mile. This poem is timeless, for sure, but dare I say, it's also a little trite. For its time, the late 1700s, that might not have been the case, but nowadays it's kind of a cliche to say, my love is like a blooming flower, or my love is like a melody. Part of what makes it work, even by today's standard, is that it has such a pleasant sound to it. There's also the fact that those similes are so plain. When the speaker says, my love is like a red, red rose that's newly sprung in June, while I wish they would go deeper with that metaphor, they don't have to. We all understand the passion and vitality in that. On top of that, the speaker isn't just saying that their love is young and fresh and healthy, but also that it's timeless. In the second and third stanza, the speaker says their love will exist even as the seas are dry and the rocks melt with the sun. Even in the late 1700s, they were thinking about the heat death of the universe. Crazy, right? The last stanza presents a little twist, that the lover and their beloved are separating for a short time, but given how the speaker is so adamant in their love, it won't be a problem. Their love persists across both time and distances. I would suggest, if you want to use a metaphor to describe your love, get creative with it. Roses and melodies are great, but they've been done to death. What does your beloved really remind you and only you of? The next piece comes from the mid-1800s, and it's still slightly cliche by today's standards, but like Burns's, it has a really pleasant sound, and the images are kind of undeniably striking. This is A Birthday by Christina Rossetti. My heart is like a singing bird whose nest is in a watered shoot. My heart is like an apple tree whose boughs are bent with thickest fruit. My heart is like a rainbow shell that paddles in a halcyon sea. My heart is gladder than all these, because my love is come to me. Raise me a dais of silk and down, hang it with vair and purple dyes, carve it in doves and pomegranates and peacocks with 100 eyes. Work it in gold and silver grapes, in leaves and silver fleur-de-lis, because the birthday of my life is come, my love is come to me. Again, singing bird with a nest by a body of water, an apple tree with thick fruit, a rainbow shell drifting in the halcyon sea. These are powerful images that speak pretty plainly. Rossetti is saying her heart is delicate, beautiful, full, calm, and many other things without having to say all that. That's the thing about poetry. You're trying to put something very intense into words as best you can. To just say, my heart is full, that doesn't really capture the intensity. But to say, my heart is like an apple tree whose boughs are bent with thickest fruit, absolutely, now that's poetry. But that's not where Rossetti's poem ends. The second stanza describes an extremely elegant party. We see a raised platform of silk down, furs, and purple dyes, doves, pomegranates, peacocks, gold and silver grapes, and silver lilies. It's absurdly opulent, like to an unrealistic degree. Grapes and lilies aren't gold and silver, after all. But that's where the kicker comes in. Our final two lines say, because the birthday of my life is come, my love is come to me. Ergo, we've been working with another metaphor this whole time. The speaker is saying their love is the birthday of their life, and ought to be celebrated as such. There are a few ways to interpret that, but they're all mostly variations of saying that the lover makes the speaker feel like it's their birthday. It's a celebratory feeling, not to mention a feeling of fulfillment and completion. The lover is as natural to the speaker's life as their own birth. But here, Rossetti is crossing into option number 3 for love poems. These options we've looked at so far, yearning and describing your love, they're often very speaker-focused. What if you want to focus on your beloved? Rather than creating a metaphor to describe your love, create a metaphor to describe your lover. This is probably the most famous example, one I'm sure you're familiar with, Sonnet 18. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May, and summer's lease hath all too short a date. Sometimes too hot the eye of heaven shines, and often is his gold complexion dimmed, and every fair from fair sometimes declines, by chance or nature's changing course untrimmed. But thy eternal summer shall not fade, nor lose possession of that fair thou owest, nor shall death brag thou wanderest in his shade, when in eternal lines to time thou growest. So long as men can breathe or eyes can see, so long lives this, and this gives life to thee. Again, I know Shakespeare seems intimidating, but it's really not that complicated when you take it piece by piece. What helps in our understanding is knowing the structure of sonnets like this. One important thing to note is that in general, in a Shakespearean sonnet, you're going to find a volta, or a major turn or shift, on line 9. This is clearly emphasized by the word but on that line. So what is the turn? Let's understand what comes before. Lines 1 and 2 are simple. The speaker wants to compare the subject to a summer's day, declaring that the subject is lovelier. How can they make such a supposition? Well, they start by describing what's wrong with summer. Line 3, summer has rough winds. Line 4, summer doesn't last long enough. Lines 5 and 6, summer can be too hot, which ironically makes heaven seem dimmer. Lines 7 and 8, and these are the real kickers, everything that is fair declines, including summer, whether by pure chance or by the course of nature. So with all these faults in mind, that's where our volta comes in. While summer might not last forever, the subject does in some way. Thy eternal summer shall not fade, nor lose possession of that fair thou owest. Importantly, the speaker is not saying that the subject is literally immortal, but that they have some immortal quality, that is, their fairness. And this isn't just some physical fairness, seeing as lines 11 and 12 say that even as the subject grows old and nears death, they will retain that fairness. In fact, the subject is so fair that even death won't be happy about having to take them. The final couplet suggests that the speaker's fairness will exist as long as anyone can breathe or eyes can see. So long lives this, and this gives life to thee. This being that ineffable quality that makes the speaker so fair. It means that the subject can live on, even in death. Such a wildly powerful communication of an admiration towards someone else, and it started with the comparison of the speaker to a summer's day. Another famous example of this type of poem is She Walks in Beauty by Lord Byron, aka George Gordon. She walks in beauty like the night of cloudless climes and starry skies, and all that's best of dark and bright meet in her aspect and her eyes, thus mellowed to that tender light, which heaven to gaudy day denies. One shade the more, one ray the less, had half impaired the nameless grace, which waves in every raven tress, or softly lightens o'er her face. Where thoughts serenely sweet express how pure, how dear their dwelling place. And on that cheek and o'er that brow, so soft, so calm, yet eloquent, the smiles that win, the tints that glow, but tell of days in goodness spent, a mind at peace with all below, a heart whose love is innocent. I won't spend too much time on this one, even though I do think it's really good. I'll just point out that the first two stanzas specifically describe the subject in her physical beauty, particularly her face, her aspect and her eyes, every raven tress, i.e. her hair, and specifically her face in line 10. But after that line, the description moves inward, where thoughts serenely sweet express, for example, and in the last stanza, even though we get cheek and brow, we move into a mind at peace with all below and a heart whose love is innocent. I think this is almost always a good move, going from the physical to the interior. That's how a lot of poetry is in general. It starts with an image or physical description of something, then transitions into how that thing makes the speaker feel or what it reminds them of. While writing this video, one of my patrons also brought up Billy Collins's take on this format, Litany. You are the bread and the knife, the crystal goblet and the wine. You are the dew on the morning grass and the burning wheel of the sun. You are the white apron of the baker and the marsh birds suddenly in flight. However, you are not the wind in the orchard, the plums on the counter, or the house of cards, and you are certainly not the pine-scented air. There is just no way that you are the pine-scented air. It is possible that you are the fish under the bridge, maybe even the pigeon on the general's head. But you are not even close to being the field of cornflowers at dusk. And a quick look in the mirror will show that you are neither the boots in the corner nor the boat asleep in its boathouse. It might interest you to know, speaking of the plentiful imagery of the world, that I am the sound of rain on the roof. I also happen to be the shooting star, the evening paper blowing down an alley, and the basket of chestnuts on the kitchen table. I am also the moon in the trees and the blind woman's teacup, but don't worry, I'm not the bread and the knife. You are still the bread and the knife. You will always be the bread and the knife, not to mention the crystal goblet, and, somehow, the wine. Collins is playing with the format by not only using metaphors to describe what their love is, but also using metaphors to describe what their love is not, which is a rather funny subversion, and prompts the reader to think, what does it mean to be the bread and the knife, but not the pine-scented air? Is that a good thing or not? Then there's the title, Litany. What's that about? One meaning of the word litany is a tedious and repetitive series. As such, as is the case with many Billy Collins poems, he might be lampooning love poems that are quick to make these metaphors by making a series of nonsensical ones. But I don't think that's entirely the case. I honestly think there's a level of sincerity here, especially in that last stanza. As my patron pointed out, a lot of these symbols are actually kind of ordinary when you get right down to it, but that's what makes them so appealing. Where many symbols and similes are over the top, the metaphors here thrive on their simplicity. Let's move into our fourth option when it comes to love poems. Option number 4 would be to take a well-known phrase or cliché and turn it on its head. But let's pause for just a moment. If you're watching this video, you're probably a writer, and you're also probably fed up with AI integrated into writing tools in the modern day. I hate opening word processors and immediately closing the AI assistant. And even if there's no AI outright, odds are the word processor is probably still using your writing to train AI. That's where Ellipsis, the sponsor of today's video, comes in. If you watched my critical thinking video, you probably know all about it already. Ellipsis is an LGBTQ+ founded company made to keep writing in the hands of writers. Not only is Ellipsis anti-AI, but they genuinely care about your privacy. They will not sell your data, and as I said before, they will not comb through your writing to train any machine learning or LLM. Aside from their anti-AI stance, Ellipsis's other main selling point is the focus on collaboration. It's incredibly easy for others to read and comment on your work. What's more, Ellipsis has a vibrant community with a monthly newsletter and a Discord server where you can find collaborators. Having a writing buddy is so essential in my opinion, and Ellipsis is a great way to find one. You can use my link, ellipsis.app/rd, or click the link in the description and pin comment, or use this QR code on screen to start using Ellipsis today, completely for free. Thanks so much to Ellipsis for sponsoring this video. Now, as for taking a cliché and flipping it on its head, the example I've chosen here is I Love You to the Moon and by Chen Chen, which really kind of has to be read with its title. I love you to the moon and not back. Let's not come back. Let's go by the speed of queer zest and stay up there and get ourselves a little moon cottage, so pretty. Then start a moon garden with lots of moon veggies, so healthy. I mean, I was already moonlighting as an online moonologist most weekends, so this is the immensely logical next step. Are you packing your bags yet? Don't forget your Sailor Moon jean jacket. Let's wear our Sailor Moon jean jackets while twirling on that lighter, queerer moon gravity. Let's love each other. So good. On the moon. Let's love the moon. On the moon. So obviously the phrase that Chen is playing with here is I love you to the moon and back, which we've all heard before. Chen turns it on its head by simply saying I love you to the moon and not back. Which seems kind of simple, so simple that it's dumb, and yet it really works. Part of what makes it work so well is that while the tone is sweet, it's also obviously comedic. It's all too clear that Chen is lampooning the phrase. One thing I also love about this poem would be the parentheticals. They seem like just another comedic element at first when they're set up, but then they pay off in the last stanza with let's love each other so good on the moon. How utterly lovely. And another thing to point out, what also really lightens Chen's tone here is that there are no periods in this poem. It reads as a very excited, hyperactive run-on sentence, suggesting the speaker simply can't wait. Heightening that interpretation is the phrase, are you packing your bags yet? It's an impatient tone. The speaker is far too eager to love, which makes the love seem all the stronger. On top of playing with the phrase on the structural level, Chen also displays a lot of creativity here in the execution with the focus on the moon. So for example, if you were to take Chen's same approach here, you could write a poem about never going to bed angry. Of course, your poem would be about going to bed angry, and you could really home in on the bed and the anger, exaggerating either or both features to whatever extent you wanted. Another cliché is the idea that marriage is a trap for men. You could turn that on its head by saying marriage is a trap for a woman, or by saying that marriage is actually the key to free you from a trap. Again, you might really exaggerate the elements that we commonly associate with trapping or imprisonment. With that, we'll move into our last option when it comes to writing love poems. Option number 5, take a specific memory or action and write about it. You might call this a slice of life poem. This example is probably one of my favorite poems ever, Wind Chime by Toni Hoagland. She goes out to hang the wind chime in her nightie and her work boots. It's 6:30 in the morning and she's standing on the plastic ice chest, tiptoe to reach the crossbeam of the porch. Wind chime in her left hand, hammer in her right, the nail gripped tight between her teeth, but nothing happens next because she's trying to figure out how to switch number 1 with number 3. She must have been standing in the kitchen, coffee in her hand, asleep, when she heard it. The wind blowing through the sound the wind chime wasn't making because it wasn't there. No one, including me, especially anymore, believes till death do us part. But I can see what I would miss in leaving. The way her ankles go into the work boots as she stands upon the ice chest. The problem scrunched into her forehead, the little kissable mouth, with the nail in it. Poems like this are probably my favorite love poems in general. Remember how I said that older love poems can kind of seem cliché by today's standards? That's because we have such a large collection of English love poems at this point, and it's only natural for certain tropes and images to be recycled. As such, I really love depictions of love like this. This is a scene and an expression of love that I could only get from Toni Hoagland. I love seeing how every individual couple loves in their specific way, no matter how mundane or non-picturesque. What's more, I love how honest the poem is. Note the shift at the beginning of the last stanza. No one, including me, especially anymore, believes till death do us part. What a strange thing to say in a poem that's supposed to be a love poem, but in a way it kind of heightens the love. The love poems that are declarations of love are really nice and very special. I earnestly hope we never stop writing them, but at the same time they do feel a little unrealistic. And I get that that's part of the point, they're supposed to be over the top, but that ironically kind of makes Wind Chime and other poems like it all the more special. It's an acknowledgement that love isn't always sunshine and roses, but love persists in spite of all that. There's obviously a sense of humor to this poem too. I love the lines, the wind blowing through the sound the wind chime wasn't making because it wasn't there. The line breaks really heighten the rhythm of the humor and delivery for me. And more than anything, I want to reiterate that the love depicted here is kind of mundane and non-picturesque. Consider the second stanza. Wind chime in her left hand, hammer in her right, the nail gripped tight between her teeth, but nothing happens next because she's trying to figure out how to switch number 1 with number 3. It's a totally average scene delivered largely in plain language, and yet I can only imagine how adorable the speaker finds it from their point of view. That adoration is only made clearer by the end of the poem. I can see what I would miss in leaving, the way her ankles go into the work boots as she stands upon the ice chest, the problem scrunched into her forehead, the little kissable mouth with the nail in it. The language is still mostly very simple here, but also noticeably more poetic. I absolutely love the phrase, the problem scrunched into her forehead. Again, it paints a picture to me of how much the speaker loves their beloved, that they adore the subject's face even as she's trying to work out a minor inconvenience. So, let's recap. Here are 5 approaches you can take when writing a love poem. 1. Yearning. Demonstrate how badly you want to be with your lover. 2. Create a metaphor that describes your love. 3. Create a metaphor that describes your beloved. 4. Turn a popular phrase about love on its head. 5. Write a slice of life love scene that only you could. And, one more thing I want to reemphasize, strive for uniqueness. I love that we as a human race continue to write love poems, but because we have so many, I want you to ask yourself, what will set yours apart? I figured I might put my money where my mouth is in this video and show you some poems I wrote with these guidelines. And keep in mind, these are still rough drafts. First, here's a yearning poem I wrote, Mothman. I pitch my Temu mini spotlight in the dirt 5 yards from the closest pine tree. This clearing is the only place in the woods where the light flies uninterrupted. I come out here every night before curfew. As soon as school is over, I go to the library, then wait till sundown to start trekking through the brush. I'm exhausted. By all of it. History homework, crabby old Mrs. Marlborough, my stinking locker that gets jammed unless you pull it open up and to the right, and stupid Milena McBride with her straight braceless teeth and skin as perfect as a pastry and sprinkled freckles across her nose and her voice that sounds scratchy like an amp and ugh! There was one time I thought I heard fluttering, but just when it sounded close, my spotlight died. I've made sure to pack extra batteries in my backpack every time since. I have one of my old wool sweaters for him to snack on too. I bet he's hungry all the time. I know they'd all laugh at me if they found out what I was doing here. Milena and her friends. They all point at me when I'm drawing in my sketchbook and think I don't notice them. You're probably laughing too. But I know he's out there, and I know he cares about people like me, because really, I'm just like him. And he'll see that. He'll fly down slowly and gently. He'll look at me like he's known me since I was 6, back when Milena and I were friends. He'll wrap me in his wings before taking me up with him. He'll show me the secret that made him what he is, the natural glowing spring, the glistening mushrooms, the radioactive moth, whatever it may be. And I'll return to school one day when I'm older, and Milena will say, "Wow, those are beautiful wings." And I'll say, "I know, my boyfriend gave them to me," with a wink. "But if you want, maybe I could take you for a flight sometime." This poem is a combination of options 2 and 3, a metaphor that describes the speaker's love and a metaphor that describes the lover. My love is like a waterfall, my lover like the rocks. What pressure pours upon her head, what volume on her docks. Incessant is the falling stream, it ought to irritate. Instead, the stillness still pursues, as she waits with weight. Though changes microscopically, and so my course does too, to move according to her shape, but stay within her view. The ceaseless tides spill o'er her skin, and yet she doth endure, the gallons of infinity, on stones of ever shore. Can you tell I was trying to channel Emily Dickinson with that one? Last up is another combination, a love poem playing on a cliché while also depicting a sweet slice of life scenario. Go to bed angry. Let it fester. Lie with your backs to each other and make a mental list of all the reasons they're wrong and you're right, and all the reasons you hate them, and all the reasons they hate you, and all the reasons you're mad, and all the reasons you're mad that they're mad, and let the bed expand until it's an island with a thick row of bamboo planted right down the middle, so that any crabs who scuttle up to your shore will have to swim around to get to their side, and remember that you'd rather the ocean take you and your lungs before you'd ever deign to swim to their higher elevation, and consider how their sibling has never liked you, even when you baked those cinnamon rolls from scratch, and remember when they made you the butt of their joke at their work event, then the time they said you were misinterpreting and overreacting to their use of the word yeah, and don't forget when they showed you that scary picture right before bedtime, even though they should have known how it would affect you, and let these things steam, and remember that you are your own agent, you're strong, and you won't surrender to anyone or anything, and then you surrender to sleep. And then you wake up, and you see them. And you forget the lists, you forget the island, you forget the remembrances, and you just see them. And you notice how their lips have parted like they always do, how their 2 front teeth stand between waiting for attention, how the sunlight traces the curves of their face in white, how the smoothness of their neck hasn't faded after all these years. And what is the anger anymore, compared to the curse of becoming unacquainted with their mass on the mattress, and their form in the morning, and their eyes that flutter and squint as the waking brain emerges, smiling? And now, folks, it's your turn. But before we wrap up, as always, I want to thank my patrons for their continued support. It truly means the world to me, and I genuinely could not do this without them. For just $3 a month, you can support the channel, see videos early, and join the community Discord. If you want to support in other important ways, please do all the good things the algorithm likes. It helps more than you know. You can follow me on my socials if you want to, but no matter what, keep reading, keep writing, and ultimately, keep in mind, this is a rough draft. Now, get to writing.